Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. You are watching the RHMax channel. I'm Max, your host, as usual. We got a pretty good guest today. I think Dylan from Fiat Crypto, doing some very interesting things on PulseChain, and I actually have a lot of questions. I was talking to Dixon Piper the other day when I had him on the show, and he mentioned it and how they were going to be important for PulseChain and serve, have some utility, serve a purpose, be a platform for a lot of different things. So definitely want to dig into that with him. He's also seems to be quite a Hexagon and can talk intelligently about a few topics around that I want to get to. So it's going to be a fun show. What's up, Bearded Saint? Appreciate it. It's you too. Win. I am Susu. Assume that's how you pronounce that. Win now. Now is win. Yes, exactly. That's what's happening. It's happening right now. Hey fam, you Quill, welcome. I welcome everyone from the Fiat Telegram channel too. I know I posted the link there. Hopefully some people seen it. People who want to talk to some of the team. This is your chance to get some of your questions answered and all that. Torin, what's up, Torin? I see Torin everywhere now. As soon as Torin started watching my streams, now I see them everywhere. So welcome. We will, of course, appreciate you being here. We'll get to questions in a minute. I see we have one from Milson Grizzly. I'm going to queue questions for now. We're going to kick off, introduce our guest, Dylan, kick off a couple questions there, get his introduction done, and then we'll get back to questions. But if you want to just post them in the chat, I'll queue them up. I'll get to every single one of them. Don't worry about that. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Dylan. How's it going?
Going good, man. Enjoying my my evening.
Okay, so you're EST? You're EST?
EST, yep. Florida time.
Florida time. Oh, that's a different kind of EST. That's you a Florida man. That's a different kind right there.
Living it up,
I hear you, man. I've you got something in common with Richard Hart right there. You got something in common with the King.
There you go. Yep, living the deep of the ghetto, I guess, right?
I wish he would stop shitting on America so much especially when he's visiting. You think he'd be a little nicer, but he just keeps talking about how much crime there is everywhere, and yeah, I mean, of course there is. Okay, we could totally go down. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole.
That's a whole rabbit hole in itself. Yeah,
it's a whole thing. But I'm like, I've never got mugged in my life, and I've lived in the ghetto, and I've lived in nicer places too. And it's not like you're just going to get murdered when you come to America. It's not like that. But for some reason it's like I don't know what crowd is like, yeah, fuck America. I don't know what crowd he's appealing to with that, but I'm sure he's got a strategy. I'm sure he's got a plan, but the libertarian in me is like, can you not talk so bad about America? I kind of like it. So it is what it is. Exactly. I'm the RH maximalist, but I don't, everything that comes out of his mouth, I'm not like, yeah, I get him. I'm like, sometimes, but he says more good stuff than bad. So I'll give him credit for that.
There you go.
Yeah. Are you caffeinated? You feel like is your brain working well today? Because we're gonna get through, man. We're gonna go through stuff.
Dude, I'm good, man. Let's do it. Throw it at me.
All right. Well, start off. We're just gonna get it warmed up a little bit. Come up, tell people who may not know you. Again, I don't know much about you. I just met you through the Fiat crypto people through that. Give us tell us how you came up. What was your introduction to crypto? How'd you get into the community? How'd you find Richard? How'd you get into Fiat? All this good stuff.
Right on. So we can start from the very beginning if you want, which is, I found out about crypto back when I was in high school. The underground, like the drug stuff, right? That was interesting. The black market stuff, Silk Road, that stuff was really cool. Didn't do anything with it. Didn't have the wherewithal or the mental capacity to be like, oh yeah, hey, I should buy this. I was in high school, so just didn't think anything of it. This was 2011, 2012, things like that. And time went on. I kept hearing about it later on in life. Finally looked at it in 2017, right? And I watched it top in December before Christmas. I watched it that night. I watched it top. It was the craziest shit ever. I was instantly hooked watching this particular website. If you just type in BTC ticker, and then it has a .co URL, and you just watch that, and you can see it flashes all sorts of different red and greens and stuff. It was really insane to watch all of that happen, that amount of money being shuffled around, it was crazy. And so, I looked into it, did my thing. Bought Ethereum first at like $500. Didn't buy Bitcoin. Throughout 2018, price dropped. I watched that happen. It was fun to just track all this stuff, and I was just buying Ethereum. Stayed on Coinbase, didn't really know much. Right? Found Richard Hart through one of his interviews with Roger Ver, where famously
that interview has onboarded so many people. That interview,
I know.
I can't tell you how many people are like through Roger Ver interview. I'm like, wow,
Yep.
that kind of impact through just interviewing with Roger Ver, amazing.
Yeah, because it was at the time, it was like one of the big knew about it because it was Roger Ver got so pissed and he flicked off Richard, and it was like the most hilarious shit ever because he was shitting on Bitcoin Cash. And at the time, if you didn't know this, Bitcoin Cash was getting launched on Coinbase, and I watched that happen too, and it crashed Coinbase for like 3 days, and Bitcoin Cash stayed at $3,000 for like it just flatlined. It was crazy as shit, and it was rumored that Brian Armstrong was dumping his Bitcoin Cash at the time. Like it was just the news at that time was just it was just crazy. So, but yeah, that's how I found Richard, and ever since, just watch what he had to say, listen closely, because I knew that he was a smart guy. I really didn't watch anybody as closely as I did with Richard. So, I got lucky, found him, found HEX, was very excited when HEX launched. And I was there when it seemed like that night, because it was like 7 p.m. when it launched, or 8 p.m. when it launched Eastern time. But they were saying that it was going to launch at 7, and like everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's not, nothing's happening yet. The day didn't take over. Oh my God, what's going on?" And it just ingrained in my mind. It's something I'll never forget. It was really fun. But anyways,
well, yeah.
Now we're here. So been buying HEX, watched all that happen since day one and everything, and it's been enjoyable to learn and to be a part of this community. I mod the telegrams religiously in the fucking trenches. So
yeah, God.
But
I don't envy that job.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, hey, I'd rather be in Telegram than watching TV, so I enjoy it. But
it's probably healthier. I don't know. Depends on what channels, I guess.
It's probably not healthier, but you can really uplift people and tell and really teach people, and kind of rather than just having a jokingly good time, you can actually teach people what's going on and stuff, and kind of pull them up with you and stuff like that. So it's fun. I enjoy it.
That type of thing is something that's amazing about this community. It's so many people are willing to give their time, energy, spend their own money, go out of their way to connect people and make sure they get the information they need. They understand. If you're still stuck on why HEX isn't a scam, like there's not too many people who are going to spend too much time with you on that. Like you need to get through that yourself. But if you're trying to do something, or you want to play with something, or you just need to understand, just different concepts. There's so many people willing to, do live streams that will, talk to you on Telegram and otherwise, to just help you out. And that's what really makes the community special. It's something that it's just not like other places. It's really not. It's something different. This time is different.
Yeah. So
what was the aha moment for you with HEX in particular? Like when you said you were excited around launch time and all the things that went on around that, but when did it click for you? Like, hey, this is the real deal. Like this stuff's going to make me rich. Like, when did that click for you?
So, funny story. I was a Bitcoin maximalist after I had bought Ethereum, I watched Bitcoin crash, and then I sold all my Ethereum for Bitcoin, and I held it for all the last half of 2018 and then all of 2019. And then, and so, I put some money in HEX, did my thing. But there was a time when I was leverage trading Bitcoin, and I was doing all right. And then this one trade I did, and I got wrecked. I lost 70% of my stack in one trade. And I knew then, I was like, all right,
it's rough.
No more. And so I put all of the rest of what I had into HEX and called it a day. And that's when I knew. I was like, all right, because at the time in the beginning of HEX, there was so much FUD. It was insane. And I had money in it. I wasn't quite worried about the FUD because I looked for myself. I went and I looked at what was going on. I understood it. I got it. But there's always that, well, maybe it doesn't go up. Maybe it doesn't go to the moon. Oh, the 10,000x. Oh, it's not going to go 10,000x. Like all those things, you never really expected it to do this, right? So the aha moment was when I finally capitulated from Bitcoin and I just all into HEX and staked it and just waited. So, I understood it from the get-go, but the all-in moment was, later on. So, but,
well, it's definitely, it's an interesting story to go from, pulling the leverage, getting wrecked a bit, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, no more. I'm going to just take all the eggs in the basket. I'm going to put it into something I believe in. Like how much confidence at the time did you have? Were you like, was it kind of like, you tripled down and you pull in the lottery wheel, or?
Well, I was trading with, I don't want to get into specifics, but I had 6 figures trading on on Bybit. I was having a very fun time. It was, anyways. But
wow.
Yeah, so it capitulated into HEX, and that was before. It was during after we had run up after the Godwill buy. We went up, I think, near 1 cent, and then we capitulated. I bought one of the bottoms down there. So when we went low for a while, and we kind of did a U into a big payday. I bought before big payday. So
wow, it sounded like you made a good decision, huh?
I think I made a correct decision. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. That's a testimonial right there. That's amazing. Yep. Especially getting away from the leverage part and being like, okay, we can just take it. You can do ladder stakes. You don't have to stake for 15 years. You can pay yourself. You can.
That's correct.
You're just in a more healthy ecosystem, right?
Yep.
But that's funny how and we'll go into the fiat too, because that's something I think. Again, I don't know much about it, but I think there are some features around leverage trading and things like that with fiat. And it's funny you have that sort of background too. Can you tell us what is fiat? Why is it unique? What kind of value does it bring to the PulseChain ecosystem? What are the type of features it has?
Yeah. So fiat is, simply put, it'll be more like the bank for PulseChain. Okay. So just like at a bank, you can deposit funds and you can take out loans. All right. That's as surface level as I can get, but digging deeper, you'll be able to deposit a range of different funds, use those as collateral, and then other users can deposit their funds and borrow yours or other people's. It's like a big, you in the contract, inserting liquidity and allowing other people to borrow off of you. The more people use,
it's trustless.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, the price you pay for the loans that you take depends on how much money is being taken out, how much money is being lent out at the time. So more people use, or if more people take loans, the loans are going to get more expensive, et cetera, less people, the cool thing about what we're doing, or what we plan to do for mainnet, we have a revenue sharing feature where, the spread between what a depositor is paid and a borrower is paying, that spread is being paid to the stakers of the fiat token, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
As time goes on, you just get a basket of currencies and you slowly DCA into all the things that are being listed on fiat and stuff. So, that should be interesting. But yeah, we're a fork of Aave. They've been battle tested. They launched in 2017. So, and currently, I think in the bear market they have $8 billion of value across a couple of different chains. But still $8 billion.
Would you apply AUM to the assets under management? 8 billion to, but it's like with a smart contract. It's funny to think about it in that way. But that is,
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive.
and you know, it's interesting. The 3AC, the Celsius, the Voyager people, all of them, they made sure to pay off Aave and the you know, the smart contracts where they had taken out loans. So, you know, there's things that you can do socially, but when it's in code and you have to pay, you have to pay. So those were the first people to get paid back, actually. So hey.
Wow. Okay. And is it so for people who, you know, like what is the main reason they would use it? I know you talked about a couple of the features, but you know, like what is the you talk to somebody who don't know anything about it, they have Pulse, you know, they've had Pulse, like they're in the ecosystem. Like what how would you explain it to them of like why they must use this platform? Like why they would use it over, like why would they spend the time and effort learning about it, trying it out, you know, using it? What is the major problem it solves for the average you know, trader or otherwise?
Yeah, so, you know, this stuff is for people that have, you know, they want, either you want to search for yield, okay, and that makes it easier being on PulseChain because the fees don't eat away at your margins, okay, so you're able to do this, whereas on Ethereum, you're not really able to do that because it's very expensive to use Aave on Ethereum currently, okay. So with that being said, the actual main use case would be, you know, you have a sizable position in, say, let's say HEX, okay, and you want to do something in the business world, or you know, buy a Lamborghini or whatever you want to do, okay, but you don't want to sell your HEX. Well, you can deposit your HEX on Fiat. You can take out a loan against the HEX, go in the real world, use what you know, borrow stable coins, go in the real world, use what you need to do what you got to do, and pay off the loan as time goes on. It's not like a monthly thing or like a daily thing. It's just you pay it off whenever you want. It just slowly starts to eat away at collateral. It just slowly starts building in size, depending on how much APY you're paying for that particular loan. So essentially, it's just a free up cash flow from your assets. That's the main purpose.
So how would that be different than, for example, liquid loans? You know, you can sort of do like that with Pulse, with PLS at least, but you can do this with HEX and other assets in?
Yeah, so, you know, with liquid loans, they serve a different purpose. You know, they are for providing a stable coin, okay? You know, most likely, liquid loans would probably be listed onto Fiat. You know, that's probably something that might happen. But, you know, in the real, in the main net of Ethereum, in the market, nobody respectively goes around and thinks that DAI is a competitor with Aave. It just, they serve two different markets. They serve two different purposes. The only thing that they have in common is yield, which, yes, you can do that with, you know, liquid loans and stuff like that, which is great. But for Fiat, you would be able to deposit a range of different currencies as time goes on. You know, PulseX. On testnet, we have PulseX, HEX, Hedron, USDC, and then a meme coin, Helga, right? That's what we have on testnet, just for, you know, testing purposes. But, you know, when mainnet comes, it'll probably have Ethereum on there. It'll probably have Bitcoin on there, wrapped Bitcoin, of course, wrapped Ethereum, obviously. You know, it'll probably even have Binance, BNB coin, whatever. Most likely we'll have PulseX, all sorts of things. So, you know, this is a place where a user that from any sort of chain or any sort of background, they come to Pulse and they need to not sell their assets. They can deposit there and take out a loan against it, or just let it sit there and accumulate some interest while other people use their coins to speculate, which, you know, that's a really cool use case besides freeing up cash flow that you can do with this stuff.
Gotcha. What has been the main? I'm trying to do some comparisons to other things people may know in the ecosystem too, like liquid loans. What have been the main criticisms of Fiat? Like, what are people said? Oh, isn't it risky in this way or that way, or like, you know, oh, people won't use it because they can use something else. What are, what are some of the main criticisms you've heard, and like how would you address them?
I mean, criticisms, we really don't get a lot of lashback or backlash. The backlash we do have is the sacrifice was too short. I mean,
Okay. And it was capped at, is it 2.5 million? Is that right?
Yes. So, yep, we had a cap sacrifice at 2.5 million, but we hit that in less than 12 hours. So we're like, okay, that's kind of unfair for everybody. So we let it go to the maximum. Complete cutoff was 4 million, and we stopped it at 4 million. So, and that was just 2 days later. So,
okay. And what was the decision for that? Like, what makes the project better by capping it like that?
We think that maybe it's valuable to have a low starting valuation.
Okay.
So
you kind of, if you have like long sack periods, you could make a case that would be, you could onboard a lot more people. You could have more time for marketing. You could, kind of like to have like more time for streams and the publicity and stuff like that, and kind of get people in.
This is true.
Yeah. I'm just like trying to, straw man, steel man too. And it's kind of like, okay, for Fiat, it's like, we're going to have we want to approach it with a smaller valuation. Again, I haven't heard of Fiat. I think I've heard it a couple of times, but I never knew anything about it because the stack base was so short. And it's so lower valuation. So you're thinking that, that could lead up to many, many more X's because you're going to start so low that, it's kind of after maybe the FOMO will, instead of giving it in the beginning, getting it wind down and come back, you want it to be this huge explosion when it launches, that kind of thing.
So we had, I've been around to different meetups. I've rubbed shoulders with a lot of OG hexagons. This is before Fiat even existed. I've just been around the block. And, we have a closed group where we have like 100 members where we mostly shitpost, but we talk about serious stuff and things like this. And that was mainly one of the places where we marketed hard. And those people that are there are mostly influential people. And so the thought process was, okay, these people, if they like Fiat and, they want in, obviously they're going to possibly invest and they'll talk well about it. And, it was just very targeted essentially. So, but, it worked out real well. So, no worries if, there will be a second round of shilling, I guess, or marketing and stuff, because we are building, believe it or not, a leverage trading platform. So when that goes live when that goes live on testnet, we'll
Okay. Is there something? You froze for a sec.
be talking all about that.
Okay. Yeah, you froze. You froze for a sec. Okay. And we're both back, I guess. Yeah. Is there something that you could demo and show the people about how it works right now?
What the
whatever part of the platform that's on testnet? I think there's something.
Oh yeah. Right, of course. So I can definitely show you Fiat on testnet. That's 100% can do that.
Yeah.
Share screen. Let's see here. I'll show you I guess I'll show you the window.
Yeah, to share the window, I can add it to the stream.
Perfect. All right. Okay, I think we're good. I can't see you anymore, so.
Can you see me? I can see you in the screen.
There we go. All right. So this is Fiat. This is, you see the market size. You can see assets that you can deposit, and you can see a deposit APY for each of the respective assets. Okay. You can see the cost to borrow APY for each respective asset that you deposit or that you borrow. When you navigate over to your dashboard, you'll see your balance. You'll see what your collateral is made up of. You'll see what you have actively borrowed, which you can see I have a loan of 49 million USDC. And my collateral is based off of mostly USDC. I got 100 million of that. And I'm not using my fiat collateral. As you can see right here, I have the collateral turned off of this. But have pretty much a lot of fiat. You can see that I have taken out a loan of HEX, which I'm in a short on testnet, just for shits and giggles. You can see my health factor up here. This is basically your collateralization level. This determines, how you could say how healthy your collateral level versus your borrow is. Basically, if your health factor gets below 1, you'll be posted for liquidation, and your collateral will be sold until your health factor is back at 1 or until you have no collateral left. So, you really want that to be as high as possible. But since I'm mainly just borrowing a stable coin against a stable coin, it's, my shit can be low. But typically I keep mine above 2 or 3 or 4, just to be on the safer side.
Can you walk us through like an example scenario of borrowing something or setting something up, just so people can get an idea of like how the clicky buttons work?
Yeah. So if we want to borrow some money here, I'll go borrow some. I'll go borrow some more HEX. How about that? Let's go here and we're gonna borrow. Let's borrow 500K HEX. And variable APY. So again, as more people borrow assets, the APY will naturally climb higher. For that, as more of the pool is being borrowed, I'm gonna pay a pretty hefty fine or fee to, or interest rate to be borrowing these funds. And depending on the risk parameters, you could be paying a very hefty APY to borrow funds if the pool is maxed out, or you could be paying a very small fee in comparison for having the pool maxed out or whatever. So now I'm on PulseX. Well, why did I borrow HEX and why am I on PulseX now? So the cool thing about Fiat is you can short HEX with Fiat, because you can deposit one coin. You can deposit one coin and borrow a different coin. So, why is that useful? If I'm a hater, okay, if I'm a HEX hater, I don't like people in HEX. I think it's a scam, okay? I don't. But if I did, and say if I was Peter McCormick, okay, I would
Peter, if you're watching, this is the platform for you on PulseChain.
Exactly. Yes, this is perfect for what you want to do. So let's say I have USDC, all right, and I have a lot of it, and I want to short HEX, but I don't want to buy it. Okay, so here's what I would do. I'd go back, I'd deposit USDC, right? I deposit USDC. I would then go borrow HEX, okay, and now I have HEX in my wallet, and I'm going to naked short HEX. I'm just gonna take this, click max, and sell all of it. Just like that. Bam. And
I like that HEX price, by the way.
Yeah, that's a great HEX price, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You just shorted HEX. Just like that. Just like that.
Yeah.
Now, this is not a leverage short or you know, a
Explain the difference between the two, leverage short, like the different kinds of shorts and longs you can do with margin.
yeah, you could call this naked shorting,
Hmm.
kind of. So, you're borrowing somebody else's hex and then you're selling it in hopes to buy back lower and then capturing the profit. Right? Now, if there is unlimited losses, or if it goes up a couple of X, my USDC would then be sold for HEX. So my USDC would be used to rebuy HEX. So I would end up buying higher than if I were to have just bought HEX and sold at any point, or I would end up being a buyer instead of borrowing HEX and then selling it. I would buy higher and make a new high, right? So that's the reasons why Richard talks a lot about wanting to short HEX and having that available, because sellers or haters, they become buyers and they buy at the worst times. And
Beautiful irony.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really fun.
And so I was going to ask too. So you said, "Oh, now we're on PulseX." Can you explain, like, technically what happened? Like, why are you on PulseX now after using the Fiat platform?
Yeah. So, we're on PulseChain testnet. Fiat exists on PulseChain testnet. You can trade on here, have lots of fun doing whatever you want to do. But yeah, so I borrow on Fiat. Now I have my coins, and since this is the premier place to trade on PulseChain, this is where I can go and sell my HEX. As you can see, it was $2.30, and now it's $2.22. So that was the slippage I incurred. So I did that for the chart.
Ooh, there it is.
Yep. And so now you guys can go trade against me and push the price up, and then I'm going to have to cover my ass and buy back higher. So if you guys push it up to 240, I'll probably just close the short, and have to lose a little bit of USDC to rebuy that HEX. So. But yep. Or if you guys can just short with me, then I can just get out or just get back in before you get back in, and then I make money. So
that's a whole totally different Telegram channel, whole different thing.
Exactly. Yep.
I got a question from TV Bishop. Is there a direct bet against them?
I didn't. What was the question?
I think it was in the context of when you were doing the short. Is there a direct bet against them?
Yeah. So if you have a watchful eye and you see people depositing a stable coin or any sort of coin that they see fit, and then they're borrowing HEX, and then you see them selling it, all you have to do is just go buy HEX, right? So as you push the price of HEX up higher, the protocol notices the HEX price and watches what it does. It has a VWAP, so you can look that up. It's a volume weighted average. It's basically like a TWAC, but it pays attention to bigger volume moves relative to time. So it watches what the prices do, and then it reprices their loans. So if you if say, we're going to use me as the example, okay? Say you guys started buying up HEX on testnet, okay? And you guys pushed it, I don't know, 10x. I would have to, the protocol would start to liquidate my USDC and go buy HEX, and to cover the loan I took, because I didn't take the loan out in dollars, I took the loan out in HEX. So it needs to rebuy those HEX coins to go pay back the depositor. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, if you want to counter trade these people, the best thing to do would be to just go buy HEX. Now, if you see somebody longing HEX, which would look like you buying HEX, okay? So let's just rebuy some HEX. Let's buy 500,000 again. Okay. Just for testing purposes. So none of you liquidate me, right? All right, so now I have, once it clears, I have 500K HEX. I'm going to go deposit. So I'm going to deposit this HEX, right? Now let's imagine I don't have any other collateral. Okay, so this would be like how you could long HEX, right? So it's just the complete opposite of a short. And I don't. This is things that if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose all of your money. Okay, so don't do this unless you're, unless you think it's the bottom and you know what you're doing, or you're trying to free up cash flow. These are
Great disclaimer.
These are cool things that you can do, right? I don't suggest you do them, but they are tools in your toolbox, right? So now that I have deposited this collateral, I would then just go borrow a stable coin, right? So, and then I would just go buy HEX. And then you could deposit the HEX again, and now you have a levered long on HEX. That's essentially what you'd be doing. It wouldn't be like a 2x. It'd be maybe like I think the max you could do is like a 1.6x or some shit like that. It wouldn't be
not 100x. Come on.
No. Nope.
Yeah,
so
no, that's an important part. I mean, yeah, like you said, people know what you're doing. Don't become a degen with this stuff. We give you the tools, but be responsible when doing this kind of leverage trading.
Yep. And so, if you did want to leverage trade, and if you don't think that my advice is any good, hey, we're building a leverage trading platform anyways. That's on chain. So you can just use that 5x, 10x, however much leverage that we have. I don't know if that's been decided yet, but when it's available, we'll be able to do all that sort of degenerate stuff over there.
Yeah.
But
got a question from Jerry. Will we be able to see all the shorts of other people?
So, there will be tools that you'll have where you'll probably be able to see this stuff. We also have a read-only wallet that we're building that I can't show you yet, but it's that one there's no sacrifice, there's no nothing. It's just something that we're building that's for the entire community and for other communities to see and use. But you'll probably be able to see people that have deposited their coins and that have borrowed other coins, and you can probably just track to see what they're doing. Their deposit versus their debt versus what they're holding in their wallet. You can probably figure out, okay, they shorted, they longed, they did this, they did that. You could probably trade against them. So,
you think people will be able to like a chain analysis tool for Fiat to kind of figure these things out? You think that tooling will be available eventually?
Yeah. So we're building a wallet called Fatty, P-H-A-T-T-Y.
Of course.
So, yep.
Okay. Nice. I got another one. TV Bishop. TV's trying to learn some stuff today. I like it. Can I take a loan out in HEX at the top of bull and repay it at the bottom of bear?
So,
or if that's not a good idea, what would be a better strategy?
So yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Now, unless you're trying to have a stop loss or something, which really, if you're borrowing HEX on here, you're only able to borrow 60% of the value, right? So you're taking a 40% haircut to then get liquidated, and then you're hoping for another 90% dip to be able to get where we are now. And it's just, remember, because if you're depositing HEX and then borrowing against it at the very top, your collateral will be worth less than your loan at some point, if it goes down low enough, or unless you didn't take out very much of a loan, right? So that's probably not a good idea. You're probably better off taking a loan out now near the bottom, and then you have much more freedom to repay that loan and to let it ride and to just push it off for quite a while if the bull market if it goes up a lot, right?
So that's the general strategy. Bottom at the borrow, if you're going to do it, borrow at the bottom of the bear. So when it goes up, everything works much more smoothly and less risk. Is that general?
Yeah. Strategy? So let's look at this objectively. If you if you buy HEX at the top and then you post it as collateral for something, you're more likely to get liquidated faster than if you borrow HEX at the bottom, right? I mean, so, all right, say I have 100 million HEX right now, okay? And I don't know, what's that, $6 million right now? Because HEX is 6 pennies.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I take a loan out for $3 million, and then say HEX doubles, and it doesn't ever go back down to 6 cents, right? So now I don't have to. If I were to have to sell HEX, I don't have to sell as much HEX to pay back my loan. I don't have to sell 100 or 50 million HEX now. I don't have to sell 25 million HEX to repay my loan, right? Because the price has been doubled. Whereas if you're borrowing at the top and you have to service that debt, and you don't want to lose your collateral, you're gonna have to buy more HEX as the price goes down. You're gonna have to keep borrowing or buying more HEX to make sure your position is taken care of, so you don't lose all of your HEX, and you're not even servicing your debt. You're just trying to cover your ass, not get liquidated, which might cause you some financial issues, right? So
Yeah.
probably don't want to do that.
Yeah. Any other interesting features about this on testnet you want to go through?
Yeah, I mean, so the revenue sharing thing, I can show you that. So as time goes on, and you stake your fiat, you can accrue a basket of funds. Here, let me zoom in. I don't know if that's big enough.
Yeah, looks good.
There you go. So you can see the token supply, 55 million coins, no inflation, very important. You can stake your fiat coins. So you can see right here, I have 461,000 staked currently. And you can see the fees that I've incurred, or the just the passive coins that I'm accruing as time goes on, as people are paying their loans off, or borrowing funds and things like this. Claim these coins, they get deposited directly to Fiat, and then they're basically already automatically counted as collateral, but it's just a passive basket of funds. And if I update this and go look at it again, you can see it's just I already have 2 Pulse, 1 Hedron, 75% of a penny. This is just constant. So pretty cool.
Very cool, man. Yeah, I love the demo. Slick UI. Yeah, I think a lot of people learned a lot just from seeing that. Very good.
Yep. So
take it off here. Yeah, thanks for the run through on that.
Yep.
What just want to ask too. We pivot a little bit from Fiat and just go into tornado.cash. I think I saw you get into that a little bit too on Twitter. What can you just explain for people who don't know much about it, like what happened? Why did it happen? Like, what was the the thought behind it for the Treasury Department otherwise, and why is it important? And what can we do now for privacy and freedom?
Sure. Well, the reason why the Treasury got their panties in a bunch was because there was a North Korean hacker group that stole a couple $2 billion worth of Ethereum or cryptocurrency, and they shuffled most of it through Tornado Cash. And the U.S. did not like that whatsoever. Now, funny thing is, I think they used so much money and they couldn't launder it all because there's just so much. And so they kind of just figured out that, okay, these are these guys, and these guys are the ones that laundered the money. They kind of connected the dots. And I think the North Korean group, they fessed up to it. Well, North Korea doesn't play ball with the U.S. like most of the other countries, do. So there's nobody to extradite. There's nobody to charge. There's nothing that they can do. Their hands are tied. So what do? They go after Tornado Cash. And since Tornado Cash isn't a company, a person, or anything that, or a country, right? Alex from Hedron, the creator, he brought up a good point. They didn't ban, or they didn't go after any of those three things, person, company, or a country. They banned a smart contract. They sanctioned a smart contract. And well, what does that mean? So if you interact with it as a citizen of the United States, you could, I think it's like 30 years in jail. Like what? So effectively, they forced the hand of people that obviously all of us in America typically have to go through a centralized exchange to get into crypto, right? There's obviously you can go through peer-to-peer in cash transactions with your buddies and stuff, but the majority of us, we just use a centralized exchange. Okay, and so sanctioning that smart contract basically put a stop to U.S. users using that stuff, Tornado Cash and everything. And
are there any checks and balances there? Like, is there anything, like, could there be, suits? Could there be, constitutional things involved? Like, do we have any recourse with this?
I think what's going to be funny is people are Tornado cashing ETH and then they're just sending it to everybody. So there was ETH sent to like Jimmy Fallon, Shaq, Brian Armstrong was sent ETH, Tornado ETH, just a whole bunch of high-profile people, and so you could probably see that just you're just throwing it in their face that this is irrational. You're not going to be able to sustain this or enforce this because people can just send you Tornado ETH and just wreck your entire Coinbase account. Like that's not going to work.
Very ham-fisted, sounds like.
Yeah, so there's probably going to be a little bit of a walk back, perhaps. The thing with Circle, there was only $70,000 that was frozen, which was just in the Tornado Cash contract. So I don't think that there's been any funds that have been frozen from users' wallets outside of Tornado Cash yet. Don't hold me to that, but as far as I know, it's just the $70K that was on contract that were invalidated. So you can't exchange those coins anymore for USDC, or I don't even think they can move. So
wow.
The bad thing about this is this can have broader implications. What if the DOJ doesn't like DAI anymore, the DAI stablecoin? What if they just sanction that like they did with Tornado Cash?
Well, what if the North Koreans start using DAI, for example, and give them a reason to, and then that in the escalation like that?
Exactly. So the whole thing about obviously you'd still be able to use DAI, right? It probably won't work because Circle will probably invalidate a lot of tokens, a lot of the USDC. Maybe that's, they did this with Tornado Cash. They probably do that with DAI. They probably might allow people to take their coins out of DAI first, because otherwise they just have a gigantic hole and basically rob those people of that money. But besides the point, the contract would still run, but it would probably be just a headache for U.S. users to use DAI. I mean, you wouldn't be able to use it. They sanctioned DAI, so you find that in your wallet, you're gonna have a problem with your centralized exchange. Possibly.
Got to stop somewhere, right? They got to be like, okay, you can't just keep sanctioning smart contracts. Like, there's got to be some billionaires got to start suing the government, don't they?
I would imagine. Clarity is better than regulation, right? So having more red tape and stuff, it doesn't make things better. But having clarity on things that already exist probably will make things better. So clarity on defining cryptocurrency and tax law and how to tax it and shit like that, that would probably be really nice. And to have it clearly defined and what it is and have it actually so we know what the hell is going on, that'd probably be great. But the sanctions and stuff, that doesn't really help anybody, right? And the Tornado Cash stuff is just is more valuable than just laundering money. I mean, I think we've all heard Richard saying, hey, privacy is needed anyways, just so you can pay your employees, so you can pay go through your friends and pay them without them seeing all of your financial history, which is that's not ideal. You don't show
right, nothing else.
Yeah, you don't go up there, hey, I'm going to pay you some money here. Look, here's all my bank statements. You don't do that. That's just not what goes on. So,
well, how do we do that now? How do we pay employees? How do we have privacy on Ethereum? What are options now?
So you could have the technical wherewithal to have a fork of Tornado Cash for yourself, and you don't verify the code, and you just see money going into a smart contract, and then on the way out, it's hard to see where that money goes out of the smart contract if you look on Etherscan. But for the average user, you could do something like that. But it's you could just use one of the smaller ones, but then the anonymity set is just not big enough. Like you could use HEX NATO, which is a HEX Tornado Cash that's been around since the beginning. You could use something like that, but nobody uses it, so they would just know that you're the only one. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
it needs adoption before. The more adoption it has, the more useful it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So the more users, the more obfuscated it is, the less chances that they'll be able to figure out that your coins are these coins or not your coins. So if you're the only one playing in the playpen, they'll be able to know it's you. But if you're playing in a group, they don't know which one is you. You're obfuscated. So
does that sort of apply to people say, okay, a way to get some somewhat privacy is don't use your own wallet, send it from an exchange, because the exchange wallet has lots of stuff going on. Is that a way to do it now?
I mean, you could, but that's not the. I think that's the antithesis of crypto, right? Because you're going to a centralized exchange, so you'd like to be able to do that trustlessly without having your coins being frozen or waiting 2 hours for Coinbase to, allow your transactions to go through 25 blocks to then send it out, and it's just, I don't know. Yes, you could do that, but is it ideal? Probably not, so.
Yeah, you're definitely giving something up there with, of course, using centralized party and stuff.
And then of course they see everything that you're doing, so there's that as well.
Yes, and of course, in this KYC, I think it's maybe one way to look at it too is, other than centralized portion of it, receiving it, whoever you're doing it through, Coinbase or whatever, they have KYC. They can tie your address, your funds coming in with who you are. The other side, so maybe it provides some protection on sending it to someone's side, as far as like making it somewhat private or less able to look at. But on the sending side, you're giving up your privacy on that side.
Yeah, and just to put things into perspective, yeah, exactly. They'll charge you a fee for doing that stuff. Yeah, so and it's probably a greater fee than the Tornado Cash, charge, because Tornado Cash did charge a fee. I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah, I lost you.
We good?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. All right. I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, I think we buttoned up. It's all right. I think went over the scenarios. HEX. Talk about HEX a little bit. Want to?
Sure.
Yeah. How does the inflation in HEX work? And inflation, bad word, right? Like, but is it something with HEX especially? Does it depend on adoption? Like, is there anything we need to worry about over time with the inflation with HEX, or is it just something that's just part of the system and will kind of work itself out the more onboards we have?
So, I actually thought about this on Wednesday. So yesterday we had a voice chat in one of our private groups and kind of pondered the idea. Okay, so imagine these guys that have hundreds of millions of HEX, even billions, and they staked for 10 to 15 years. Okay. Now, a majority of everybody would think, okay, rationally, they would take some off the table or they would sell their HEX, right? They would end their stake and then sell. Majority of people probably think that way. Now, what if those people just restaked? You know, obviously they would have, at that point, you would imagine that smaller people would have given up T-shares and things like this. They would have even more control over the inflation of the system. If they stake for the same exact period of time or longer, well, I mean, you can't, if you stake longer than 10 years, it doesn't matter at that point. But,
well, one caveat, you'll get the emergency in stakes, more penalties over time for the next 5 years, for example. But yeah, you don't get paid anymore.
Yeah. You don't get diluted. Yeah. Which, I mean, theoretically, if you stake for 10 years and you had it like a extremely long time horizon and you stake for 10 years, now you could restake everything and probably get the same T-share because you're just that big, right? You have the 10% bonus, the bigger pays better, and then you do the 10-year stake again. Now you just have more of the inflation. So, if those people decided to do something like that, well,
you want to explain too why we got this question, why the 10-year stake is better than 15, and the caveat of you can, the penalties and stuff you may get if you do 15.
So it depends on your time horizon. So if you're wanting to just be in a 15-year stake and you want the T-share preservation, you can do that, right? But if you have a 10-year stake and then you stake it for another 10 years, you could possibly see where, as time goes on, obviously there's going to be less T-shares, right? And yours will probably be the same. When you restake, you'll probably have the same amount of T-shares because you'll have the same interest, or you have the principal and interest, and probably you will be the one setting the new T-share rate, which would mean you could break even with your T-shares. You could restake all of your HEX and get the same T-shares back, okay? If you were that big. Let's say, I think the bigger pays better bonus is 100 million HEX, but I forgot. I can't remember. But let's say it is, and you have 100 million HEX. Now, obviously, you're going to have way more than 100 million HEX at the end of 10 years. Now, if, as time goes on, you restake it near the end, or, at the end of your 10 years, and you restake it as soon as possible, and the T-share rate doesn't slip against you, and you get the same amount of T-shares back, you could theoretically have more control over the system as those other people are ending their stakes and they're not restaking for as long. You would then have more control than they would have because they gave up their time duration rather than you, and you staked earlier than they did. And so you got to see the T-share rate tick up, and now you're still holding longer than they are now, but you have the same T-shares. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a game you can play there. Obviously, they can restake. They can have the same T-share rate as well. There's different caveats for all this stuff, but it's just, I don't know, something we're discussing the other day. But.
Yeah, and again, the longer you stake is the more opportunity, and finish your stake, the more opportunity you have to collect emergency and stake, payouts and stuff too.
Of
so
course.
That's why even Richard talked about this on stream of like, oh yeah, he was like, yeah, I always thought, why would anyone do over 10 years? But then somebody brought up the point of 15 years, you're staking longer, you're getting those extra payouts, when and if they happen.
Yeah. And I'll be real with you, the payouts or the emergency end stakes, that's probably lucrative, but I think the real value thing here is the actual T-shares themselves, because they dwindle away as time goes on, and they start to dwindle away much faster as time goes on. And you could probably argue and say maybe the time horizon for Bitcoin. This happened in the conversation I had on Wednesday as well. Like, okay, so let's look at Bitcoin, right? It's been what, 15 years now, or almost 15 years, and the first
Getting
10
close.
was probably the best gains that it's had, right? And then these last 5 years, it's been pretty abysmal gains, right? So you could argue that maybe there is a cyclical cycle here, a much bigger cycle within the 4-year cycles or whatever. You could probably argue, okay, these last 5 years of Bitcoin have been shit gains because it's just part of the cycle. Maybe that'll look like that in HEX, perhaps, and who's to say that the next 10 years for Bitcoin might have better performance than it did for the last 5 years that we've had for Bitcoin or crypto in general. And so
in 10 years, maybe T-share will mean 1,000 share instead of trillion share.
Sure, yeah, you could always redefine T-share into a B share or a T share again,
A T-share,
right?
a TT share.
So exactly, yeah, a lowercase T share, right?
Yes, yeah, there we go. I
So,
mean, if the system keeps working flawlessly in 10 years, I think that's a legit possibility.
Yep, and having the staking derivatives, like Hedron, like Maxi, I think that stuff is really useful in locking up more HEX and making the liquidity available elsewhere. So people are less inclined to sell their HEX and more inclined to buy things like that stuff. And for a smaller guy, you'd be better off buying these derivatives at a discount than you would buying HEX. You'd get a better deal. Yeah, when B share comes, everyone here has probably made it, right? So, anyways.
It's still weird to me to talk about B shares because being in day one and all this stuff, I'm still T shares is forever in my mind.
Yeah.
But it's funny, like to talk new people talk about they hear T shares, but really when you're talking to a lot of people that are new in, they're probably going to have B shares unless they're really loaded and have made a huge initial capital.
Yeah, it is what it is, right? We're going to see a lot more of the distribution model, on the lower end, just naturally. That's just what happens, right? Most of the users, and it always looks like a pyramid. You have a majority of the users or a majority of the funds in a few users' wallets, right? And then it gets more decentralized. As you can see on the leagues, right? You have 13 whales. You have 98 sharks, something like that. You have like 1,000 dolphins. You have like 4,000 squids. You have like 26,000 or 18,000. Last I checked, 18,000 turtles. You have like 26,000 crabs. It's just a distribution model. It's just what it usually looks like in an economy. Yeah. So I mean, hey.
So why is HEX not a scam? Like, even and beyond that, how could it ever be one? Like, is there, you heard the imaginary horrible, like, oh, Richard's going to dump one day, the old beat up, unfalsifiable argument, or the greater fool argument that applies to like everything, every asset, and basically, anyways. Why is HEX not a scam? And like, is there any logical argument or any circumstantial evidence that ever could be?
So yeah, pretty big payday for the win. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, a lot of people in the beginning had a problem with where did the ETH go, right? That was the main contention for a lot of people. And simply put, the ETH was a sale. You were selling your ETH for HEX through a contract. It's it's just a different distribution model than having a funding round and then giving people like we had for Pulse. It's just a different inflation model or distribution model.
You're describing the adoption amplifier.
Correct. Yes. Where there was 365. I think it was 365 days where you had every day 500 million HEX would go out available for sale. Right. You deposited Ethereum and then you would get your portion of the pool at the end of the day. At 8 o'clock, you'd be able to claim your HEX out of the pool. Okay. Now, cool thing about the way it was structured was if you had a lot of Bitcoin free claimers, it would take the HEX out of the adoption amplifier, so there would be less for sale. But there wasn't that many Bitcoin being free claimed, so all of that HEX basically stayed for sale. So, it went from, I think, 513 million to like per day being sold to like maybe 498 million per day being sold. So, gives you a little bit of perspective. Now, after that was done, then it's purely the only way to get new HEX is staking, or is through inflation, right? The natural 3.69% inflation, which is deferred in the future, as we know, for an average of 6.5 years or something like that right now. But yeah, I got lost in the weeds. I don't remember the question.
Oh, why is it not a scam? And what are the terrible arguments against it, and why can't they be true?
Yeah, so the main in the very beginning was the Ethereum. Basically, you're selling your Ethereum for HEX in the beginning through the contract. Now that was an issue because people thought, okay, well, oh wow, I see one of the addresses for the contract being rerouting Ethereum back into the contract. Well, I looked and I saw that happen, but it was to stop arbitrage from happening through the open market. So every day the pool would basically reach parity with the market to stop arbitrage, and it would fill up like in 30 minutes, like that. It would just instantly match the market price, and sometimes it'd be 50% lower, 30% lower, maybe sometimes it'd be 10% above, 20% above, and you'd reflect that in the market. Well, if it was at that lower mark, it would just be filled up by the address, the flush address, which got all the Ethereum. And a lot of people thought that was, wrong or whatever, but hey, it was stopping arbitrage. It was going to the OA. That stuff was never sold. It's in dollar addresses. It stays there. It doesn't really move. It is what it is. A lot of it moved for the sacrifice, right? And now it just sits there. So that was a lot of
billionaire founder, no incentive to rug pool whatsoever. He's already rich.
So yeah.
So that argument doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and I mean, he got shitloads of ETH, right? So, and he made it very clear that what happens if this person got a lot of ETH and then they wrote it up 20x, and then he kind of made that really apparent that that's probably what he did. So he's fine. Why would he sell HEX? You don't need to. He has ETH. So
and you couldn't either. The liquidity, you couldn't if you wanted to. There's not enough liquidity. What is the one of the Pulse sacrifice wallets has like some insane number, like $12 billion of HEX or something like that, or it's just some crazy number, and you couldn't sell that if you wanted to. There's not enough on the open market to fill it. Again, another shot on that argument. Doesn't make any sense.
Yep, and you get what, like $8 million? That's all we have for liquidity right now, I think.
Yeah, exactly. It's somewhere around there for sure.
Yeah, so you nuke it to zero and you just walk away with $8 million. Wow, what a
there goes your glory. I mean, again, Richard's in it for glory. Already rich, doesn't need your money. Doesn't make any sense. $8 million. He wipes his butt with $8 million.
So,
and the slow drip argument, has it happened? I don't think so.
Slow drip, as in?
I'm interpreting as selling a little bit at a time over time, but it hasn't happened. And why would it? And if it did happen, everyone would see it, and they'd be like, "Whoa, look what's happening!" And then the whole thing would be die again. So no, I don't see that angle either.
And a lot of the inflation that we think is going on is actually not happening. What's interesting is if you go to HEX Daily Stats and you just look at new coins being minted versus coins being staked, you actually see there are extended periods of times where we are deflating, where we're not minting new coins, where we have a negative inflation rate. It's very dynamic. And other times we have a very low inflation rate for an extended period of time. I mean, we're talking less than 1% hitting, coming off the contract and going and minting these new coins. So since all of that inflation is deferred, we're experiencing very low to minimal inflation now, and perhaps we might continue to see that just because of the game theory with the T-shares anyways. So, the coin inflates to infinity. I mean, everything does. Things have to be built, right? You have to make new things.
It needs to grow. It needs to grow. That's like how pretty much everything works that you need to share with more people.
Yeah. So if you have, you could argue, in a healthy economy, if you want it to grow, inflation is good. It's great because people, they'll take out loans, they'll loan it to other people, they'll spend more money, they'll create businesses and things like this. Whereas if you didn't have an economy like that, it would just naturally gravitate to a couple of people, and it would just, I don't know, at that point it would just, it'd be like the Egyptians, where they had all the gold and they had all the slaves working for them, right? We probably don't want to live in that world.
Well, people say, okay, why? Maybe the question could be asked: why isn't every coin deflationary? Why? If you try to apply that for a country, for example, you can't have a deflationary currency. Deflation, inflation, deflation, you need them to be balanced. And of course, inflation makes people want to spend money. It fuels the economy, things like that. Too, in a balanced way, not 10%, but like 2 or 3%. I think a lot of people agree that's healthy. Deflation means the money's there's going to be less of it. So how can you spend it if there's less of it? What economy are going to grow?
You would never invest in any sort of asset if your currency is deflationary, because you would just hold the currency. That's kind of bullish for crypto, because obviously your crypto would go up in price versus something that inflates, like the dollar. If you had like PulseX or something where it'd probably be bullish to hold that, just because there will be less of it going around, and it won't be inflated. And as the new users grow, naturally the price will increase, because there's only so many that you can have, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that Bitcoin has a cap supply and it doesn't inflate, when in fact it inflates every 10 minutes. That's how the miners get paid, and that's going to happen through all of our lifetimes. It'll inflate for a couple hundred years past all of us dying.
Like 2140 or something like that.
Yeah, so we'll be able to see. We will never see Bitcoin go, well, maybe we will if longevity works. But as of right now, we won't see Bitcoin go to where it has its cap supply, and that is socially enforced anyways. We all know these talking points.
Yeah.
Bitcoin's code can be changed. Miners can agree that, hey, we need more inflation to sustain the network, because we're gobbling up all this electricity and it's no longer profitable to mine empty blocks with no fees they're charging. We need to keep the inflation here, because this is the only thing that's sustainable at the moment. And we can't have, go from however much inflation that they're being paid to nothing, right? So, that could happen.
Somebody catcalling you?
Yeah, my cat is. He's very talkative. Yeah.
So in summary, like elevator pitch, somebody comes up to you. Oh, you're in that HEX stuff. It's such a scam. Blah blah blah. How do you
just walk away? It's not even worth it, man.
But they're like, I'll give you $100. $100 change my mind. $100 change. If they're like $100 change my mind. And you were like, okay, I'll take the bet. What would you say to them?
How much of a bag do you have? If you're paying me $100, I don't care. But if you're a player and you want to buy a lot of HEX, sure, I'll tell you why. But if you're coming at me to just have an argument and not listen, I'm not going to tell you what HEX is, right? I don't care. Right. It's going to do what it's going to do. You'll end up buying the top because you think it's a scam. That's fine. Go ahead. That's good for my bags, right? You buying now and still thinking it's a scam, right? And then you selling at a 10x, that doesn't help anybody. But let's say I did the elevator pitch, right? It's yeah. So let's say, this person is a Bitcoin maximalist, right? I would tell him, okay, HEX is the same thing as Bitcoin with a proof of work change. And every time you say that, they get all triggered and stuff. They don't get it. It's literally that simple. HEX is a proof of work change. It's the same thing as Bitcoin. Instead of mining, instead of buying foreign miners, you're buying HEX. You're buying the currency to capture the inflation instead of burning electricity to run a computer that does SHA-256 mining. Right? It's just that simple. And the longer you stake, the better deal you get. The inverse of a miner. So, I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of it, right? That's all it is. They both inflate. They both pay people to do different things. In HEX, we pay people to stake and to hold the price up. In Bitcoin, they pay people to mine inflation and process transactions.
Yeah, but it's too centralized. We go down the list of like I think hex.com actually has a lot of the explanations for this stuff, and of course on Telegram too. But there's
we can talk about the centralized stuff. Hey, Bitcoin mining is majority. I think 70% of the hash rate is in 5 pools. Nobody they don't talk about that stuff, but there's 5 pools. If you look up the Bitcoin hash rate, you can see there's 5 pools that control 80 to 70% of the hash rate, and somehow that's okay. So,
but it's Bitcoin, and we trust Satoshi Nakamoto, who we've never met and may not even be here anymore.
Yep. So there's always the caveat of what if Richard sells? Well, what if Satoshi sells? We can go down this list.
Richard's alive.
And we don't know if Satoshi Nakamoto is alive or dead. There's no way to confirm or deny that. Now, if Richard dies, then that's mega bullish. All them coins, they're done. They're gone. I'm sorry to say, but it's true.
I've never heard anyone actually say it, but I think we've all good point. We don't want that to happen, but
no,
I don't think
Richard.
I don't think it would I'm not sure would it there may I would say there would be a dip, but then community overtake it, all this stuff, and we're like, well, all those coins are no longer I don't know. Well, it's hard to say too. There's some speculation. Who was I talking to the other day? Talking to somebody, and we were talking about maybe the OA has it in a trust, and and these things are executed upon certain events. But if we all trust that Richard's going to do the right thing for holders, it wouldn't be sell it all. If something happens to me, I don't think it would be that. It would probably be like do something good with it, which would benefit holders at least for 5 days. I would hope.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
I've thought about it, and maybe it's under a legal entity or a trust or something like this. Who knows? It's acting as the Fed. It's doing its thing. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's there. The extra coins are there so that it can set the inflation rate. That was a design parameter. That's why there's a lot of supply, right? And it's holding a majority of its coins, not staked, so that the users, basically, it's like a wealth transfer. It's taking money from itself and giving it to the users. Okay, and it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what it's doing.
As Richard says, on your point of like, what is it doing? Questions around that. It doesn't affect you. Don't worry about it. It's he's got all this stuff figured out too. So where's the ETH? Where's blah blah blah? Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect you.
Yeah, and if you talk to people like Eric Wall, and who knows what it'll do.
There's a question from the first 5 minutes of the conversation. I just wanted to, because I try to, anyone asks a question, if it's not crazy, I try to put it up there.
Yeah, but it's hard to say, where it will go. But
okay, we'll leave HEX prediction for another time.
I'll tell you this.
Go ahead.
If milk is $100, I think you'll see HEX at 10. Maybe that'll happen. right? So if you buy your milk at the store in
Hmm.
America and it's $100, you'll probably see maybe a $10 hex.
That is something. He gave you something right there, Milson. That is something. Bots will take over. Talk about PulseChain briefly too. By the way, anyone has any questions? Post them. No, we had a couple here. I think I got to all the ones that I saw. Sorry,
Eric is
Milson.
great. I love Eric Wall. He's great.
Yeah, he's our alternate bit boy. We never know what we're gonna get from Eric.
He's our evil villain.
Could be a secret hexagon. He could be holding a huge bag. Never know. He's just waiting on the right time to camp his own bag.
Maybe.
Yeah. PulseChain. What do you think will happen 24 hours after launch?
Shit. I don't know, man. So I have an idea. I'm going to say this because we have a general idea of the re-ratio bot. Okay. If you don't know, you're going to have to dig through weeds to find exactly what I'm talking about or to source the information that, but essentially there's going to be a re-ratio bot where, its goal is to match the market cap of Ethereum to account for the new supply of Pulse. Okay. So that means that what it will do to match the market cap, it's going to take all the coins that are versus Pulse and buy up those coins with inflated. It's going to inflate a little bit of Pulse. It's going to clear out all of those Uniswap pools, SushiSwap, Curve probably, all of the dexes. Okay.
Curve's already been cleared, by the way. Just kidding. I said Curve's already been cleared. Curve hack joke. But.
Yeah. And so, it's going to take all of that liquidity, post it onto PulseX, okay? And the ratio is going to be, it'll match to make it so, okay, we have to think about this objectively, all right? Obviously, the USDC on PulseChain, the native USDC is probably not going to have a backing of any sort, okay? We're just going to go out on a limb here and say that's probably not going to be worth $1, all right?
Not too crazy to say.
For all intents and purposes, at the fork, it will be worth $1, okay? It will be worth $1, right? It's going to have a ratio between, if USDC, let's say you could no longer redeem USDC on Ethereum for dollars, okay? But the block right after that, it would still have a ratio between ETH and USDC. You'd still have, Ethereum is worth 1,900 USDC. Those coins, you can have these coins for this coin, and it would have a ratio, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, if you could no longer redeem these things, people would have to sell these to buy the other asset to make these worth less versus the other thing, right? Now we just name it. Okay, this is USDC now, and this is ETH now. Okay, if you can't redeem your USDC, you have to sell the USDC for ETH to affect the ratio. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so on PulseChain at the fork, you're going to have a ratio between USDC and Pulse that will be set to match the new market cap or the market cap of ETH and Pulse. So it'll have a different ratio than Ethereum does. It'll be like I haven't done the math in a while. Ethereum was like 2,000.003 USDC. Okay. Yeah. Now that's not dollar value. That's just the ratio between a non-redeemable coin that USDC, right? Can't redeem it, but that's the tradability between that particular coin and Pulse. Okay.
Is there a way to make USDC have value? Can people bridge in real USDC and try to?
Yes, that'll probably be available. Yeah. You'll definitely be able to bridge in funds, right? I'm not here to argue that USDC is going to have a value or or this and that. I'm just saying, you know, you have USDC and you have Pulse, and there's going to be a ratio on the second block when PulseChain goes live. There's going to be a ratio there, okay, and it'll just reflect the new inflated coins. Well, why I bring this up is you'll be able to rebuy HEX. You'll be able to take, because there's going to be a ratio between Pulse and HEX when the re-ratio happens, okay? And you'll be able to rebuy your HEX with the Pulse that you got from Sacrifice, if you did, probably at a multiple more of a buying power. Okay, so when I mean this, I mean you sacrificed 1 HEX and you were able to get 2,000 Pulse. Okay, because HEX was 20 cents, right? With no volume bonus, you sacrificed 1 HEX, you got 2,000 Pulse. Okay, with the re-ratio, you know, if we did it now, you'd be able to buy. Let me look at the chart here. So the HEX ETH pair is 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, 3, 1. So it takes 0.000031 ETH to buy 1 HEX. Okay. So you times that by the multiple for the re-ratio bot, which is the new inflated supply, and you'd be able to have the ratio of, I think it's 36 Pulse to buy 1 HEX. Okay. Well, you sacrificed 1 HEX and you got 2,000 Pulse. And now you're telling me that I'll be able to buy 1 HEX with only 36 Pulse? That is an excellent deal. That is a fantastic deal. I would take that deal.
Wow.
So, you know, hey, that's...
Do you think that's what's going to happen? Do you think that's PulseChain is going to have, I mean, what is that, like a 20x or something?
Okay, so that's not dollar value. That's just HEX versus Pulse. Okay?
HEX versus Pulse value.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no dollar value here. We're not discussing, you know, oh, what's the value? I don't know. But I know that the re-ratio will set the price of HEX. And if you could get that good deal, you're probably going to get a fantastic deal rebuying HEX versus your sacrifice. So, you know, you'd be able to scoop up some PHEX.
Yes, I do wish you had a whiteboard. I mean, I was following, but man, that's very interesting.
Yeah, so I tried to describe it as best as I could, but if you have to rewatch it, please.
Yes, I'm sure
it'll make sense. Yeah.
I think let's replay the stream too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but
let's add some cursing.
But,
trying to get me demonetized? I'm just kidding. I don't monetize, so curse if you want. As long as it's within good spirit.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. But yeah. So brass tacks. You sacrificed. You know, 1 HEX. You got 2,000 Pulse with the re-ratio bot, which is just there to match the market caps. You know, otherwise you'd be able to have. You'd sell 1 Pulse and you'd be able to buy. A shitload of HEX. Exactly. Yes. Benny knows. I've discussed this with him before. Yeah. So it's like, for instance, on testnet. Okay, this is a great example. On testnet right now, when it first came out, I got into the Uniswap pools, which there's still liquidity over there, and you can still trade on the Uniswap pools. You have to look for the front end to do it, but you can do it. And at the beginning, I was selling 2,500 Pulse, and I was getting $2.5 million or 2.5 million USDC. Okay, you can see where the problem is. If I sell, you know, 2,500 Pulse and I just clear out all of the HEX in the pool, I basically just robbed all the HEX, right? That's not efficient. That's not how it should be, right? So re-ratioing the pairs would make it to where that wouldn't happen, and that's why the re-ratio bot is doing these things. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So you get a way better deal trading back into HEX. If you're one of the first people to do it, that'll be a fantastic deal to rebuy your HEX. So
within the first 1 to 24 hours.
Yeah. Probably in the first couple minutes, just to be honest, but we'll see.
Ooh, all right. Well, if you know how to write R bots, PulseChain may be the chain for you when it launches.
It, it's kind of hard to program a bot that should exist and that doesn't exist yet. If you're programming an arbitrage bot, you're going to have to know when the chain goes live.
Right. Question from Seditious. Wouldn't this depend on the PX? Was equivalent value of HEX you sacrificed with?
Nope. Because you sacrificed 1 hex and you got 2,000 pulse per 1 hex at the most ideal rate. Okay. So now that hex is down a lot, it doesn't matter. What matters is if hex goes down more, you get a better deal. If hex goes up in price versus Ethereum, you get a worse deal because the ratio is, it's about 10,000 x. I think, yes. So it's actually a million or something like that because the supply difference is that much greater. But let's do it through. Pull out the phone. I'll give you the math. So 0.12341 times 1.1.
Bringing out the calculators.
Yeah, so it's about 1.1 million is the ratio difference because it's based off the supply. You have the supply of Ethereum, which is like 120 million or something like that. I don't know the exact number at the moment, but versus the new inflated supply, which is like 100 or 1.2 trillion or something like that, which is 1.1 or 1.6 million difference. Okay, so you take the current hex through ETH ratio and you multiply it by that multiple, and now you have a hex to pulse price. Okay, that's the only way we can calculate this stuff. So if hex goes lower versus ETH, you get a better deal. If hex goes up in price versus ETH, you get a shittier deal. So that's the way it works.
Gotcha. Very cool, man. Yeah, my brain is tired as well, just listening. Trying to keep up, trying to keep with chat too. Great questions, chat. I definitely like the questions, keeping Dylan sharp here. But we are at the end. Dylan, anything else you want to talk about? Anything interesting going on? Anything else you want to bring up while we're on stream?
No, I mean, whatever you want to throw at me. Hey, I talk about this shit all day, all the time. So, I love, I love talking about this stuff. But yeah, I mean, there's probably going to be some trades. You're probably going to get deals, but honestly, I would just hold on and wait because you could get a really good deal or you could get a really shit deal and lose a lot of money. So I would just be wary of that. Be patient and wait. But if you wanted to be the degenerate and try and get that extra little hex, right, you can watch out for what I just explained. And if it's a good deal, execute on it. But if it's not a good deal, like, don't play with it. Just leave it how it is. So that's probably the best advice I'd give, to be honest.
The phrase is play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a fantastic game that a lot of people play. Stupid games.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But,
all right, everyone. Thanks for joining me, man. Nice to meet you. Nice to know more about Fiat. Even though every time I say the word Fiat is my mind, and I have to context switch over to Phiat, which makes me think of Meet the Parents when he goes into his brother-in-law's room. And he's like, "Little Kim, she's fat." You make me think of Meet the Parents when I think of Fiat now.
Right on.
It's a great movie, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen it. Yeah, chat's very happy with you. Lots of good questions, lots of good chat. Didn't get too rowdy today. Thank you, chat. Not too rowdy today. Appreciate the good feels, the good dim feels. We got tomorrow. We got Nerd Girl coming on tomorrow.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be good to have a chat with her. First time I talked to her, and then that'll be my third day in a row streaming. So I will be very
Really?
tired tomorrow evening, and I'm going to take a break. I don't want to do weekends. Too much brain power. Too much clipping. Too many thumbnails. I can only do so many thumbnails, and I get real antsy when
Right
that
on.
happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, man. I feel like I know much more about Fiat. Of course, sad that almost no one got in the sacrifice in a way, but I understand why. I understand the strategy. That's pretty cool, I got to say. So I guess we'll have to get it on the open market when PulseChain launches. That's when it's going to come out.
Yep. And what cool thing about the leverage trading fork that we're doing, we'll probably have a sacrifice for that. Don't know if it'll be before the fork or after the fork yet. But
okay.
Cool thing is, if you really want to sacrifice, you can just sacrifice for that, and you'll probably do well. So maybe.
All right, new sack phase coming up. You've heard it here. Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah, smash all the buttons if you want. Again, I'll be back tomorrow with Nerd Girl. And follow Dylan on Twitter. It's at @BB_trippin, just the way it sounds. And then there's the Fiat Crypto
Bitches be
Telegram
tripping.
channel. Bitches be tripping. That's what it stands for. Where else? You got a YouTube channel?
Yeah, that's it.
You got anything else to?
I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
That's why we have
Just
you here.
if you have questions, just hit me up on Telegram. Hexastani, just at Hexastani, and you'll find me. So, but yeah, that's it. That's
awesome.
where I'm at most of the time. So, catch me on Telegram.
Yep, same here. You know the YouTube channel on me, and on Twitter at RHMax. It's just the way it sounds. Hit that follow button, and if you need something, at me. If you want to talk a DM, at me. I can follow you too. You can DM, and then anything else you want to. Anyone else, if you want, whoever you want to see on the show, tweet at me, tweet at them, tag them and stuff, and then we'll get together because I'm just kind of going off of who I think is interesting. I'm kind of doing research on like who's talking about topics I think people like to hear about. So if you know of other people you want to get on the show, tag us on Twitter, and we'll get it done. Dylan, again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the information, and I'll see you around for sure. That definitely won't be the last time Oh, you going to Vegas, by the way? You going to PulseCon? I
went to Vegas this last event, but probably not going this one.
All right. Well, if you change your mind, I'll be there. I'll be there with a few other people. I'll be live streaming from Vegas. I plan to for day 2 and 3. Yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Nice.
So if you are there, stop by and we'll get on stream while we're there too.
Roger that, man. But sweet. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Of course. Everyone, have a good evening, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. And we're out.